everyone, and welcome back to Silicon Sounds, music for the rest of us. Today I'm going to have a look at another IAM release, the Salnotes Zero. A number of other manufacturers have released IAMs with the title Zero. Don't know what that's all about. I'm going to entitle this review 0 to 100 in no time flat. Little background, Salnotes is an offshoot company from 7Hertz, the manufacturers of the well-acclaimed 7Hertz Timeless, which uses a planar driver for its IAM and other products as well. Salnotes also has other products in their product line. This is the lowest cost version or lowest price version known as the Zero. So what do we have? Let's get right into it. Notes. There's been a lot of hype around the release of the Salnotes Zero. Prior to its actual release, close up there, there was talk about how it would sound. Of course, there's some people who supported it and some people who rejected it, which to me was all a joke. You don't really know until you listen to it, right? I guess it came off of the success of the Timeless and also the release of other earphones such as the Moondrop Chew and the Astrotech Vesna, which both were received very well after their release based purely on their sound quality. So what we have here is a $20 earphone, which came with a lot of hype, but does it live up to the hype? I will tell you, and not waste your time, that it actually exceeds the hype. This is rare. Let's get into the review. What we have here is a $20 earphone sporting a single 10mm dynamic driver. It's said to be constructed of metal composite, the driver I'm talking about, with a N52 magnet, for whatever that means. It could just be a marketing thing. At the end of the day, really, it depends how it sounds, right? That's what we're really looking at. It is a $20 earphone, but unlike many earphones in this price range, tip rolling, proper selection of source, it really responds very well to good, clean power. Two of my sources that I use that I really got the most out of this were the acclaimed Apogee Groove. If you don't have one, you should. That's just my opinion. I'll probably do a review on it sometime. It's an older dongle, but fantastic sound. I'm just incredibly musical. And I settled on the EIDA 9038S G3 using tube emulation preset. Those two dongles, the Apogee Groove and the EIDA, are probably the finest dongles that are around for quite a while. In particular, well, with respect to my own collection, I'm happy enough that I'm not looking for any other sources. Let's just put it like that. So let's dig deeper. 10mm metal composite diaphragm, N52 magnet. Sensitivity is 108 dBs per volt at 1 kilohertz. Impedance, approximately 32 ohms. Standard 78mm connections, 0.78mm, I should say. Yes, the cable is removable, and this is not the original cable. Frequency response, take it with a grain of salt, 10 hertz to 20 kilohertz. These are all, in my opinion, more marketing than actual reality most of the time. But let's continue on. And it comes with a 3.5mm high purity copper cable, which I'm not, unfortunately, don't have on me right now for this review. What you see here is the Nice Check, N-I-C-H-C-K, I believe, Nice HCK, however you want to pronounce it. This is what they call the Eagle cable, 16 core, high purity copper. Very celebrated cable. I think it matched very well with the Salnotes. Equipment used for this review: Tempotech Sonata E44 dongle, Apogee Groove, and EIDA 9038S G3 dongles. Ear tips that I used on these at the end were the Final Audio E Originals. And that's about it. So let's get started. Music sources were my personal collection of FLAC, which I personally converted from CD, and also Apple Music, which I'm a subscriber to. Build quality and fit. Build quality, very good. It's made of a hard plastic / resin material with a decorative metal faceplate, as you can see here. Very well done. Fit is fantastic. It's on the medium size, I'd have to say. We can see closely, you can see the bass vent, one of them right here. Also, the mesh is very interesting, metal mesh. Some people don't like that and said that removing the mesh improves the sound. I'm not going to go that far. I'm not really a modder per se, not because I can't, but because I don't want to. So fit and finish overall is quite good, in particular for a $20 earphone. Links to the review on my blog where I show the original accessories that it comes with, including the cable and the tips. It comes with a pretty decent array of tips that you can try as well. And also the retail presentation pictures are there. Look down below in the description of this video for the link to the blog review. So all in all, very good for $20, above and beyond what one would expect in terms of presentation and included accessories. Now let's get to the meat of this, the sound. Bass. The Salnotes Zero out of the gate will never be mistaken for a bass cannon or bass head type of earphone. That's just not what it's about. But there's much, much more to this story when it comes to the bass. Bass goes reasonably deep, actually goes fairly deep, but is extremely well controlled with notable detail, texture, and speed. What it may lack in absolute slam is more than made up for in quality. In particular with the sub bass, which is surprisingly well presented. I threw some really interesting tracks, house music, drum and bass tracks, even jazz, guitar, bass guitar, and the sound notes really had great definition and separation in the deepest bass, which is almost unheard of at this price range, except for a few standout IEMs, which I'll compare it to later. I listened to songs, for example, Protection by Massive Attack. Wow, the quality of the bass reproduction was excellent. On top of it, the bass in of itself does not bleed into the mids. The upper bass does not bleed into the mids, even though the mids have a certain sense of warmth. But we'll get to that. I'm getting ahead of myself. Mid bass is also well controlled and not overemphasized, nor does it bleed into the mid range in a way that becomes a distraction. The Salnotes Zero does offer a measure of warmth to its sound, but again, this is not due to bass bleed. Very good. Informer's Room, and again, link to the blog review where you can see all the pictures of the songs I used for this. Well, some of them. Is a drum and bass track that slams very hard. Very, very good. Informer's Room. Also, there is the SGVO Informer's Room, another song, almost the same name. It is a house music track. Sounds fantastic. The deep bass is there in the track, layered very nicely. Very, very good. Intelligent Hoodlum by Mannix is another track I use, a very hard hitting and slamming drum and bass track. It hit pleasantly well. I was surprised, even though you would think by my past comments that it doesn't have slam, it does. And when it slams, it's really controlled. Let's get into the mid-range. The Salnotes Zero offers upper mid-range that is balanced with ample details, macro over micro though. Good separation without harshness. It's not the most expansive sounding earphone, but there's enough separation, detail, and speed. I always say that one of the elements of sound that is missing in so many sound reproduction devices, whether it be headphones, earphones, IEMs, speakers, is being able to present the listener with the space between the notes. This is a function of the speed of the driver and, of course, the overall tuning. Well-balanced, ample details. I said again, macro over micro, good separation without harshness. Lower mids have a measure of warmth without sounding thick nor constrained. Tender-Hearted Lover, a track I used by a gentleman named John Stoddart. Fantastic vocal track. It sounded immediate, just maybe a touch recessed, but immediate and detailed with the singer's emotional vocals really coming through. This is what we talk about musicality. This is what separates audiophiles from music enthusiasts or hi-fi enthusiasts. And I'm not talking about audiophiles in the stush standoffish sense. I'm talking about what excites people about the music. It's the emotion of the music. Fantastic for a $20 earphone. Sweet Love by one of my favorite female artists, Anita Baker. Never can be considered a great recording, but the vocals sounded slightly recessed, but with a clarity and texture that was very satisfying. She's very emotional in her singing, and the sound notes allows that to come through. Just Between Us, one of my favorite tracks of all time by a jazz guitarist by the name of Norman Brown. Sounded wonderful. Wow, the track sounded great. Now, this is an interesting track because with a lot of other earphones, they either sound congested or flat. But with the sound notes, and others, of course, of better quality, a liveliness to the track with ample air and separation was very apparent. So really good. Fast, good driver, excellent tuning. Let's continue with the treble. Treble has good extension and is well done without overemphasis or other embellishments, which V-shaped curve, which the Soundstage has a very mild, potentially mild with respect to that. In fact, I really wouldn't even call it V-shaped. I would call it balanced, bright, with great bass extension and very high quality bass. So I wouldn't call it a direct V-shape, but with a lot of V-shaped adorned IAMs, you lose some measure of continuity in the sound, and particularly when it comes to the treble and the deep sub bass. If you look at some of my other reviews, I might expound upon this. But the treble has good extension, well done, no over embellishment, doesn't have the fake clarity or extension. This is what I mean. In many of the V-shaped earphones, the treble is boosted. Do not mistake intensity for detail. They are two completely different things. Clarity, texture retrieval is not the same as brightness. Treble energy is just right, and again, with clarity and detail, it has a good amount of air and sparkle, not as much as I've heard in some other earphones, but just enough to give that liveliness to the sound that is very pleasing. Imaging and Soundstage, it's about average with respect to imaging and Soundstage. It doesn't sound restrained or claustrophobic. There's enough space around the instruments to really give a nice feeling of air and separation. The speed of the driver, of course, helps here. It does lack a level of expansiveness that you might hear in, for example, the Moondrop Chew. But that being said, it doesn't sound constrained at all. In particular, with respect to depth, the Salnotes is not the best reproducer of the depth effect, but I find the vast majority of in-ear headphones, or earphones, I should say, do fall flat in this regard. But the Soundstage is quite a nice listen. It's not distracting at all with respect to Soundstage. In fact, it sounds more intimate, if I were to put it like that. Stimula, the Coltrane Live by Hugh Masekela, the late Hugh Masekela, fantastic live track. Sounded intimate, but lacked the level of spaciousness I've heard in other earphones, usually costing much more, though. Let's go verses now. Let's get to the end of this. What do we have here? The celebrated HC Sound Heart Mirror. Now we're getting a Heart Mirror Pro. The jury's out on that one. So, the Heart Mirror is still regarded as one of the benchmarks below $100, and for good reason, although with each new earphone release, that becomes less and less of a moniker that it can hold on to. They sound similar and have similar tuning, but overall the Soundstage is superior. And why is that? Well, let me tell you why. Bass quality is comparable, although bass output is stronger on the Soundstage. Clearly better note weight all around, which is necessary for achieving that organic quality. You want note weight. Notes are not all light as air. They have impact. They have weight. Also, the treble on the HE Sound Heart Mirror can get a little raggedy at times, with a little less control than the Soundstage does have. With respect to imaging, they're about equal. But when switching directly between the two, the HC Sound Mirror definitely sounds thinner and less involving than the Soundstage. So, 1 to the Soundstage right there. Next one, Astrotech Vesna. One of the darlings that I love. Unsung heroes. Unfortunately didn't get as much hype as it really deserved. Another favorite of mine, offers a warm, coherent sound with good technicalities and organics. The Zero is more lively performer, better controlled sub bass, though. So, and further up the spectrum, the Vesna offers a good measure of organic mid-range reproduction, with the sound notes sounding a little sharper and less warm than the Vesna. The Vesna has treble that rolls off earlier and lacks the measure of air and sparkle that the Salnotes also enjoys. That being said, there's something about the Vesna, the warmth, the organic warmth that it produces in terms of sound reproduction, that makes it's something that I will listen to on occasion still. It's a keeper. They both are. For a more all-around sound, I'd have to say the Salnotes, but sometimes you just want to be wrapped in a warm blanket, and that's the Vesna. Let's get to the elephant in the room. The Moondrop Chew. Moondrop Chew is another celebrated IAM. Another recent darling, if you will. Very beautiful looking IAM. People talked about the captive cable. I say get over it for the price. I mean, what do you expect? It's all about the sound at the end of the day. The Chew offers a brighter, more forward sound with good detail, but falls short when organics and balance is brought into focus. Now, this is comparing it directly with the Salnotes. The Salnotes Zero best to Chew in both of these metrics while offering comparable technicalities. The Salnotes Zero also lends itself to more musical genres than the Chew, with a better fleshed out bass and less forward upper mid-range. I would say all in all, the Salnotes Zero is a more organic sound than the Chew. And since that's one of the metrics that I look for, musicality, organic, realistic sound, I would have to say right off the bat, the Salnotes Zero best the Chew and has relegated the Chew to the drawer. Good try, Moondrop. Come out with a Chew 2. Slightly better bass, cut down 2 to 3 decibels, the 2 to 5 kilohertz range. You probably have a Salnotes after. Anyways, let's get into the conclusion. Let me get right to the point. The Salnotes has a winner with the Zero. They do require and deserve time spent finding the synergy that makes them sing, though. A lot of people will listen, oh, they sound harsh, oh, this. Spend time on synergy with any earphone. Some of them deserve it more than others. Some of them you'll be able to quickly attain the synergy as opposed to others. I found it was very easy with the Salnotes to dig down and find a setup that worked great. So they do require and deserve time spent finding the synergy that makes them sing. The listener will be rewarded with an earphone that really moves aside and lets the music just play. Time and time again, I had to remind myself that these are only $20 US. After a while, I just didn't worry about the price because it's all about the sound, folks. The Salnotes Zero gets a definite recommendation from Silicon Sounds, and we can comfortably state that it is the new benchmark in not only its price range, but competes very strongly in the sub $50 range as well. Actually, I'm going to go out and say, if you get the right synergy with these, it can even compete with some earphones in the $100 range. It is incredible what $20 can get you these days with respect to sound quality. The Salnotes Zero will put a lot of manufacturers on notice and should put them on notice. Expectations have been raised and there is no going back. Sometimes, folks, just sometimes, the hype is real. I want to thank you very much for watching this review. Definite recommendation, grab you one of these. If you're thinking about getting into the IEM space, the Salnotes Zero should be very high, very, very high on your short list. Absolutely something that we love. A keeper, more than just a keeper. It's relegated a couple of these hyped IEMs, including the celebrated Moondrop Chew, to the back burner. And the HC Sound Heart Mirror. That in of itself tells you how much this is highly regarded. Please look down in the description and the notes for this video for where I purchased this. It was at Linsol Audio. I purchased it with my own money. This is not anything else but a private purchase, and I just wanted to give a video on. As well, a link to the blog, which shows pictures a little bit more complete with respect to detail, and really shows you what kind of music was listened to evaluate the Zero. Want to thank you very much, everybody. Thanks for supporting Silicon Sounds. Please like and subscribe. Have a great day.